Hi guys, and welcome to part 4 of the architectural diagram series. So this is the last video here, and so this is the sort of parallel video to the other one, which is using AutoCAD. This one is using Illustrator to overlay your diagrammatic information. So in this one, James is going to go over how to kind of get around Illustrator and kind of just real basics of Illustrator, and then show you how to do things like make groups and join together lines, etc. So we just tick on here again, so you can see this is now stage 4 up the top here, the final bit where you kind of do the artsy fartsy part of coloring certain elements and adding annotations and that sort of stuff. So just to run through everything again, then we started off at stage 1, we imported everything, all the floor plans, into SketchUp. Then stage 2, we modeled the main building of the project. Stage 3, we added in a bunch of extra stuff from the warehouse, and that was really good because the warehouse models, you just download them and then kind of go straight from there, and it helps speed everything up. And then now this is stage 4, so we've exported what we had in SketchUp. So it was a 3D model, we exported it as a 2D image, and now we just edit that 2D image. So I mean, in theory you could do this in sort of Microsoft Paint if you really wanted to, but it would take you forever and that would just really suck. Whereas we're going to use Illustrator, which is probably the best, or one of the best tools for editing this kind of image that we get out of SketchUp. So yeah, enjoy guys.
Hi guys, welcome back to the final installment of the architectural diagram series. Now what we're going to do in this video is all the kind of post-production stuff related to your 3D model, and more specifically creating a kind of nice diagram that kind of highlights all the important aspects of your building. So we're going to be using a bit of software today called Adobe Illustrator. So some of you may be familiar with that, some of you may not. And just kind of point out that it's a little bit more advanced than doing the AutoCAD route. However, it does set you in good stead for learning the Adobe software, and is a good stepping stone for kind of Photoshop and InDesign, which are kind of really useful tools that you might find using later on down in the following years. So just a little bit about Illustrator. The software is available at uni on Apps Anywhere, so you can access it at uni on kind of all the computers. However, if you're going to be doing a lot of the kind of work at home, the Adobe software does require you to have a membership with them, and it costs roughly about £15 a month. But that gives you access to all the Adobe software, like Photoshop, InDesign, Premiere Pro, and Illustrator. So if that's something you would be considering, come speak to Scott or myself, and we can tell you a little bit more about that. So yeah, we'll just kind of crack on just now. So first things first, let's make sure that you have exported your 3ds, your SketchUp model, as a PDF. Now Scott has went over that in the previous video to this, and we're wanting to be using the PDF version for this tutorial. Okay, so make sure that you've exported as a PDF. Now I've got mine on my desktop here, so we'll just open that up in Illustrator. So if you just right click on the file, open with, and select Illustrator, and wait for that to load up. Okay, here we go. So, at first glances, the user interface can look a little bit scary. There's a lot of kind of buttons on this left-hand side, a lot of menus along the top, and kind of sidebars. However, we're not going to be delving into any of these kind of at all, really. And there's only going to be kind of maybe one or two kind of options that we're going to be using in this series. So, just something to kind of highlight that's really important as well is if you look at the kind of quality of the lines in this image here, they are flawless. You know, there's the PDF, once you import it to Illustrator, it's made into a vector image, which means there's no pixelation, and you're not going to lose any of the quality from the diagram. So that's kind of really important once you're doing your slideshows, your presentations, kind of that are coming up. You want your images to be really, really crisp, and doing it this way, you know, will kind of aid that. So yeah, let's kind of just do the kind of basic navigation of the software. So we've got, all we're going to really use is the zoom and slide navigation. That's all you're going to really need to use for this series. So to zoom, we're going to hold down on the Alt key, and we're going to use the mouse wheel, and we're just going to scroll in and scroll out. You know, wherever your cursor is on the screen, you're going to zoom to that point on the drawing. Okay, it's very simple, a little bit different compared to some other softwares, but you will pick it up fairly quickly. The next one is slide. So we're going to hold down on the control button and use the scroll wheel again, and that just allows you to go left to right. Again, very simple. If we want to go up and down, we just scroll. We don't need to hold down any buttons. Scroll up and down allows us to do it that way. So between the two, or between the three even, it allows you just to kind of navigate very simply. Okay. So yeah, let's get started. We can see here that, you know, if you zoom in, each of these lines is broken up individually. So it's very handy in terms of editing specific lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the kind of line thickness that we've currently got here. You can kind of see that the fence is quite, like, you know, it's quite dark. You know, zooming in, and a lot of these lines are quite thick. So we're going to just change all the lines to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the selection tool up the top here, and then we're going to drag a window over the entire image. Okay. Now you can see here that the image highlights blue, which is a good sign. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fire over to the right hand side here. We're going to make sure that we're on the Properties tab on the top. So if you're on Layers, just click over to Properties. And we're only going to be concentrating on the Appearance section of the Properties tab. More specifically, the stroke. Okay, so this is just the stroke of the lines, how thick the lines are going to be. So you can currently see that they're all at 3.6 point. Okay, which is, you know, kind of fairly thick. And kind of good kind of practice to start when you're starting doing these sort of diagrams is to make everything really faint and make the lines really, really thin. So a good kind of value that I tend to go for, it's not kind of set in stone, you can choose whatever value you like, but I like to use 0.07 point, and if you click enter there, and you click off the image, you can see that the lines are very, very thin, a lot more kind of legible. Okay. So once you've done that, we're ready to start creating our architectural diagrams. So the one we're going to show you how to do is probably the most basic one, but it gets you to grips with the software and the basic navigational tools. Is we're going to draw, we want to kind of create a perimeter around the outside of the building to highlight its importance within the image. Okay, so the way that we're going to do this, as you can see here, if you click on an individual line, it's highlighted. Okay, and what we want to be doing is we want to be highlighting all the lines around the perimeter of the building to start. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll head over to the left hand side, just to the kind of flat roof section of the building, and if we click on the perimeter line there and scroll up, we have if we zoom in a little bit as well, we've got the next kind of lines. So to select multiple lines, you hold the shift button and select. Okay, so click, and that allows you to select multiple lines. Okay, so remember and hold that shift button and basically just navigate your way around the screen until you select the entire perimeter of the building. So we'll just quickly do this just now. making sure that you get every sort of line that we have here. Now this is a good, it can take a very long time to do this. You will speed up eventually as you get to know the software a little bit better. But it's good practice to kind of getting around the software and, you know, getting used to these kind of new commands that aren't in AutoCAD, for instance. So we'll just select these lines, this line. Okay, so that's the perimeter of the building selected there. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to obviously make the line a little bit thicker, and to do that we head back over to the appearance tab here and to the stroke section. Okay, so it's still at 0.07, so what we want to be doing is click on the arrow here, the drop down bar, and we've got a selection of different points that we can do. So we can go from, you know, really extreme thicknesses like to really small thicknesses is what we've got all the other lines. But what we'll do is a good kind of value that I like to use is the 7 point. So we click there, and if you click off the image now, you'll see that the perimeter of the building is highlighted. It's quite bold, stands out, and it's quite appealing to the eye. Okay, so, you know, give that first part a try, guys, and the next part that we're going to do is we're going to be filling in the rest of the building using a thinner thickness of line. Okay. Okay, guys, so hopefully most of you have managed to, you know, highlight the perimeter of your building. So the next part we're going to do is we're going to basically go around the rest of the lines that we have here, and we're going to make them a little bit thicker too. However, we're going to maybe not make them as thick as the perimeter line, you know, just to kind of give a little bit depth to the building. Okay, so very similar process as before. We want to scroll into our lines. We want to start selecting. Remember, holding that shift key. Now I recommend, you know, doing parts of the building at a time now. You're gonna, you know, there's a lot of lines for the rest of this building, and what we want to be doing is making sure that we're not getting to about the end and you forget to click shift and you lose everything. So we're gonna edit the lines section at a time. Okay, so we'll start off with this kind of first section here. So again, heading over to the stroke drop down bar. So, you know, we've used 0.07 for the really faint lines. We've used 7 point for the thick boundary line. What I like to use is a 3 point. Okay, it just kind of, it's not too thick, it's not too thin, and it just kind of starts bringing the building to life a little bit. So if we click off here and we kind of scroll a little bit, you kind of see there's quite a bit of definition between the two. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bore you with doing every single line in this. I'm going to let you go off and try this yourself, and once you come back I will have all this changed to 0.3 line thickness, and hopefully you will too. Okay, so hopefully you have managed to trace out the rest of your building, and you can see here that all the kind of other lines in the building have been made to the 3 point thickness. Okay, so, you know, the building, you can see here in the diagram, stands out really nicely from the rest of the site. Okay, so, you know, that's the bulk of the work really done here. The last thing that we're going to cover is highlighting specific parts of the building that you want to show off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly do a couple of examples. I'm not going to do the whole building, because that can be quite time consuming. However, I'm going to do some sort of grass area in the front here, and I'm going to show you how to highlight, for instance, these solar panels. Obviously, in your buildings, you're going to want to show your kind of sustainable technologies that you've incorporated. So using this sort of diagram is a good sort of way to do it. So what I'll do is I'll start off by doing how to highlight. We'll do this kind of grass area. So this is going to be grass here. So what you want to be doing is you're going to need to use the line tool in this instance. So you click onto the line tool, and you've got these snaps here. Okay, you can see that if you click on a corner between the two lines, it's going to display the word anchor. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to draw around the perimeter of the grass area. So very simple, is find the point, the end point there. You're going to click, you're going to hold and click from the line. So you're going to keep your finger pressed down on the mouse. You're going to zoom out, and then we're going to zoom back in to the next point. Okay, and then we're going to continue drawing around. So we're going to find the next point in here. It can sometimes be quite difficult. We're going to anchor that on. The next point is there. The next point is there. And just kind of drawing around. Even though you already have existing lines there, you just need to draw another perimeter. And connect all these lines up. That one. This one. And another thing to add as well is you can't draw a line from the line that you've just drawn as well. You have to go to the opposite side and then connect it up via that way. Okay. Two more to go. Anchor. Oops. If you make a mistake, you can just click Control Z, and you can redraw back. Anchor, and then the very last line is anchor. There we go. So you've drawn around the kind of perimeter of the area you want to highlight. Okay. Now what we want to do is go back up to the selection tool, and we want to select all the lines that we've literally just drawn. Okay. So again, there, holding the Shift key and going around and selecting all of these paths that we have. There we go. So all those are selected. Now what we want to do, this is a very crucial part, is we want to right click once all these lines are selected, and we want to what do we want to do? We want to join them. Okay, so if we click join, and basically that if there was any gaps between any of the lines, it joins them together, and it also groups them together as well. So you can see here, if you click on it, the boundary, it's grouped together. Okay, so that's really important to do that before we can head to the next step. Okay, so once they're all grouped, we select them again, and what we want to be doing is we want to be using this kind of square on the left toolbar. It's called the fill tool. So if we double click on that, a color bar comes up. Okay, and using this bar allows you to scroll through all the different types of colors we want, and this is going to be the overlay for what color you want you to represent each area. Okay, so obviously this is going to be like vegetation, so we want sort of green color. So it doesn't really matter kind of what sort of shade you go for. We'll go for something like this, and you can see here that it infills the area that color. Okay, now you can see here it's quite it's quite a blocky color. It's quite in your face sort of thing. You can keep it like that, or some things that I like to do is if you go over to the Appearance tab here again, where your stroke was. Now we're not going to change the stroke this time, we're going to change the opacity. So we want to be changing the opacity of the colour. So we can use the scroll bar, so if we put it to 0, it's not there, 100 is full colour. If you scroll down a little bit, it kind of lightens it, makes it look a little bit kind of easier on the eye. So if you click off of that now and zoom out, you see that that whole area is now highlighted green. So it's a really good thing for creating diagrams where you want to create like a little series of images. One image to show where your landscaping and vegetation is on the site. Maybe another diagram to show where your solar panels are. Another diagram to show where your windows are. That sort of thing. Okay, so that's the basis of creating an infill color. Okay, so now if we do the same for these solar panels here. Okay, now you can see that they're all the same size, which is very handy. So we can actually make one overlay and we can copy it. So we'll do the same process of before as in tracing an outline. So if we go through the boring process of that again, intersect, but again making sure that you really are accurate with your lines. To there. Okay, so that's them all done this time. If we select them all again, like that, and again right click, and if we click join. Okay, so that's them grouped and all joined together. So let's go back to our fill panel on the left hand side here. So we double click on that again. Well, let's say we want to make our solar panels blue. Okay, so again find a shade of blue that you like and click OK. There we go. So that's that infilled there. And let's make that opacity. Let's kind of change that down a little bit lighter. There we go. So that's that there. If we then click on this, if we go Control C and Control V, there, that layer is duplicated. Okay, and we can actually just move that into position. You can use your arrow keys as well to kind of move the item up and down. So there, that looks fine. If we go Control C, Control V again, we have the next one. There we go. And last one. So there we go. So there we go. That's a basic overlay for highlighting the main points in your building. So again, we could do that for the backyard sort of area there. We could also do it for the pathways leading up to the building. Just showing these in some sort of kind of colour to represent what you're wanting to show. Okay. Now, what you can do, which is, you've got two ways of doing these. You can either, do your vegetation all at once and then save your image, and then do your solar panels, save your new image, or we can do a thing called layers. Okay. Now, by doing layers, that allows you to turn certain aspects on and off, or make them visible on the drawing. So if we head over to layers here, you can see there's only one layer available at the moment. Okay. If we head down to the bottom here, we have a button called Create New Layer. Okay. Now that shows us layer 2. So if we double click on the text here, you can rename it. So let's just call this grass and enter. Okay. So we can arrange all our layers, our grass layers, into this layer. Sounds a little bit complicated, but I'll show you how it exactly works. So if we select on the grass there, okay, if we select on the grass, it shows it's in layer 1 at the moment. If we click on layer 2, which is the grass layer, and right click on the object, we want to be using the arrange button right here. Okay, and if we say send to current layer, which is where we want to send this grass layer to the grass layer that we've just made, if we click send to current layer, that moves. Okay, and then what happens now is the little eye that is on the left hand side of the layer, if you turn that off, the layer disappears. You can turn it back on and turn it back off. Now this is really handy for you can put all your different layers. You can do your grass layers, your solar panel layers, your window layers, your circulation layers, all in the same document, and then you can hide them or show them appropriately for each diagram that you want to do. Okay, so we'll do that again for the solar panel just to show you how it's done. So if we scroll down to the bottom and we've got create new layer, okay, so it's another layer there. If we double click on layer 3 and we'll call this solar panel there, okay, so solar panel layer is now selected. Let's click on all the objects. So if we want to click on the multiple objects, we click shift, there we go. So we've selected all the blue overlays for that. Now we need to go back to the layer that we're wanting to move it to. So if we click solar panel and then we right click on the object and head down to arrange and send to current layer. Okay, so that's that done now. So if in theory, if I click the hide button, the solar panel overlay is going to hide. If I just want to show the solar panels on its own, no grass, then there we go, we hide the grass layer. Okay, so that's really the real basics of the layers, guys. There's you know, that is the fundamentals on creating these and changing the line thicknesses. And as I say, it will take a little bit while to get used to the software, getting used to this idea of layers and how, you know, they kind of sit on top of the initial kind of SketchUp model. And you know, we're obviously going to be available within your tutorial classes to help you out if there's any problems with that. So that's all we're going to cover, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this small tutorial series, and I hope that it helps allow you to create some 3D models for your eco retreat project. Thanks for listening. Cheers.